Whether you refer to it as No Shave November or Movember, the important thing to remember all November long goes above the fun or growing facial hair, and that's raising funds and awareness while encouraging men to routinely consult a doctor, get screened if something is off, and build casual conversations about health and overall well-being. It's an opportunity to break the chains of fear and stigma and open the door to positive energy with a room full of people who are here to be a listening ear and perhaps a helping hand as well. Dr. Mina Pham, Medical Director for Urologic Oncology at Jersey Shore University Medical Center, says that there are 3 cancers that commonly affect men: bladder, testicular, and prostate cancer. He explains that prostate cancer usually doesn't present symptoms. You receive a diagnosis through 2 types of screenings.
One is a digital rectal exam done by your doctor, and the other is PSA, prostate-specific antigen. And with those 2 things, we're able to start the screening process and set patients up for biopsies if necessary.
It may surprise you to learn that one of the causes of bladder cancer comes from smoking, similar to lung cancer.
Bladder cancer is also associated with chemical exposures as well. So we do see patients that have been working in factories, have been exposed to different chemicals that are exposed to those things that do develop bladder cancer. Also, family history is another key component which needs to be considered in evaluating patients with blood in their urine. So in terms of prevention of bladder cancer, definitely if you do smoke, quit smoking. And obviously just continue to get checked by your doctors.
Testicular cancer is common in adolescents and men in their 20s and 30s, Dr. Pham explains, and it's something found with a self-examination looking for lumps or bumps or irregularities like blood in the urine. Any of these urologic cancers, though, are very treatable, Dr. Pham explains, in the early stages.
So if you do have blood in your urine, if you do have an elevated PSA, if you do have any lumps or bumps or anything abnormal, I would advise people to get checked out early because oftentimes there can be a cure and it's much better than the later stages.
An Ocean County man who overcame his battle with cancer is also encouraging other men to routinely see a doctor. 10 years ago, David Caldarella found out he had neck and head cancer after noticing some lumps on the side of his neck. He tried some home remedies to clear up what he thought was a sore throat before heading to his physicians.
Within a week, they did a biopsy on my neck, on the lump on my neck, and found out it was squamous cell carcinoma cancer. It was spreading. It had gone from my tonsils, where was the origination, down my throat, and into my neck, into that lump. And I was referred up to Jefferson Hospital in Philadelphia, and within 10 days to 2 weeks, heard it was stage 4 head and neck cancer.
For months, he battled through the treatment, sickness, and the roller coaster of emotions.
The better part of 2010 was a fight. And at one point, I started out at 190 pounds. I got down to 125. I had a feeding tube in my stomach because I couldn't eat or drink through my mouth. I would open a can and pour a can into the tube, and that's how I got nutrition for months. It was difficult. I remember sleeping on the bathroom floor. I remember my mom and dad putting a pillow against the bathtub and a blanket over me because I was getting sick continuously.
David received a lot of support during his cancer fight from family, friends, and people in the community, which helped him overcome those tough times, eventually becoming cancer-free.
Strangers who didn't know me from Adam, but found a way to send me a card or reach out through somebody they know that knew me.
The outpouring of support led to him creating David's Dream and Believe Cancer Foundation based in Manahawkin to help individuals and their families across the shore and state in providing some aid to help them with expenses. The goal was to try and help 1 or 2 families a year. Since starting up in 2010, they've helped more than 1,800 families and raised over $1.6 million for these families.
So that they get a little bit of help with rent and mortgage and utilities and medical bills and groceries and gas to get to treatments.
There's been a lot going on this year, all of which could be adding to the stress or anxiety levels of some men. Dr. David Leopold, Hackensack Meridian Integrative Health and Medicine and Network Medical Director, says learning to practice things like gratitude, happiness, and optimism will help change your outlook, as will having a good night's sleep, diet, and exercise routine.
Physical activity is extremely important. Prioritizing sleep and making sure we get sleep, extremely important. And really interesting data now shows that actually what we eat affects our level of stress. So the more we eat sort of what we call the standard American diet or a typical Western diet, which is a lot of processed foods, foods that are high sugar, fried foods, that tends to put us in more of a state of stress actually. Diets that center more around a Mediterranean type diet or more plant-based diets, not necessarily vegetarian, but more plant-forward, those actually have been shown globally to reduce levels of stress.
If you make those lifestyle changes and you're still struggling, Dr. Leopold says it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to figure it out alone.
It is okay to ask for help. It is okay to not be okay. And it's one of the things that I think is really, really key. Nobody can do all these things on their own. And it's just of the utmost importance that we acknowledge that we have stress, that we have anxiety, or that things are putting pressure on us, and to seek out other ways of getting help from outside sources.
He adds, seeking help from someone outside your family and circle of friends will allow you to feel more comfortable opening up and not be judged.
Seeking help from a professional has a completely different capacity to help. It's important to have family and friends. We all need that social interaction. But our family and friends have a vested interest in keeping us happy. And so what I always see psychological counselors and other counselors as is sort of a big giant dumpster for all the stuff that we really can't share it with our family and friends. It's third-party individuals like psychologists or psychiatrists. They are objective sources, and what happens is people can go there and just release everything without being judged, without having somebody say, "Oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay." Some of these things, it's not going to be okay, and so that kind of a relationship is extremely important. So many people. Within one visit to a counselor, they feel so much better because they can unburden so much.
Dr. Ramon Solka, the chair of psychiatry at Jersey Shore University Medical Center, explains that the true signs of stress to take notice of come out in our daily behaviors.
The way that a lot of men, because we're not always really in touch with our feelings, is that we'll sort of realize that we're being stressed right when our eating habits change, when our sleeping habits change, when we find ourselves maybe being a little bit more angry or short fuses.
These are the warning signs to pay attention to, whether it's taking a look at our own lives or someone in our family or a friend taking notice of it.
Certainly if your spouse or significant other or your children or parents pointing out some issues, hey, you seem a little bit more on edge, you seem a little bit more. I think that during these times we all have the responsibility to really look inside and say, well, maybe they're right.
Fear is sometimes the culprit behind some or most of what causes us stress and anxiety, whether it's about something we know or just simply the unknown.
Fear is a motivator, and so when it's used in a healthy way, can be extremely important, right? It's all of a sudden we're sort of fear of being stagnant, fear that we're not being successful, fear that things are not going the way that we want, fear that we're not making enough money. All of those things may force us to look to other opportunities and to make changes in our life, and so that's not a bad thing necessarily. It's when the fear impacts on your ability to do your day-to-day activities that I think it's problematic, and I think that we have to sometimes change the framework of fear to the opportunity and looking for what is the potential silver lining.
We can grow mustaches and beards, and some look pretty great, some look like it's a bit of an effort. However, only part of the reason for No Shave November, or Movember, today presents another opportunity to begin the conversation encouraging men to see their doctors and talk to someone to relieve the stress that lives within, or have someone to share the good times with as well. Not just family and friends, but people in the community we have yet to meet. Be kind to everyone. For Town Square Media News, I'm Vin Ebenu.